I mean, is Baby Yoda the illegitimate love child of Yoda? Story at 11. Now you have to imagine Yoda actually having sex, which is a really funny thought.
No. That's not allowed in the Star Wars universe. They just like put out their hands, and then they just
artificially
inseminate
inseminate with the Force.
Yeah, forceful insemination.
Great way to start the review. Powerful Nerdcast assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Hello, guys. Welcome to our review of The Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. The title's going to probably give it away, but this is the big reveal of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano in live action for the very first time, and it was really great. But this, I think, is going to be a divisive episode. For hardcore fans of Star Wars, for those who just eat that shit up like Jabba, we're talking the movies, the TV shows, the books, all that stuff. This is going to be the episode that they're going to love, because you get Ahsoka Tano, you get a big name drop of a very important expanded universe character who also appeared in Star Wars Rebels, and for people like you, Christian, people who love The Mandalorian, don't follow the movies religiously,
don't care about the movies.
You're still going to like this episode for the action, but with all these other characters, are they going to do it for you? Are you going to get excited, or are you just going to be like, who the hell is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Yes, I feel like the difference between me and you liking this show was shown immediately when they introduced that character. Or this is what they do a lot in this show. They talk about a person before they introduce them, you know? So that when they mentioned him, you freaked out. You like jumped up on the chair like you were Tom Cruise on an Oprah interview. You know?
It's not an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration.
I was really excited about
this. And I just immediately turned to my phone and started Googling the guy because I don't even... I don't know who this is. This doesn't mean anything. I haven't watched Star Wars Rebels. Actually, I've watched a lot of the fights, and I like them. They're cool. But I've never actually watched the show. So, yeah, you have two different kind of Star Wars fans here. Like me, I just like Mandalore the Mandalorian because he has cool armor. He goes on cool adventures. He has a Baby Yoda that's cute. And you get a fun sort of light experience of the Star Wars universe without having to go too deep. You just get to see new aliens. But for Corey, he's like, oh, I know what that alien is. But for me, I'm like, it's a cool looking alien. Now let's see if Mandalorian shoots him.
Okay. But otherwise, this is a pretty simple episode overall of the Mandalorian arriving on Corvus to meet Ahsoka Tano, who currently is going to war with the Magistrate, a brand new group of villains who apparently worked for the Empire. They're led by a woman named Morgan Elsbeth, who apparently is responsible for creating all of the Starfleet for the Imperial Army. They go into her backstory a little bit, how she was ravaged by the Clone Wars, her family, her friends, her planet, so she becomes kind of like a Imperial sympathizer, and that's why she's created this group, which is led by these gas mask wearing Combine looking dudes.
Yes, they do look like Combine. And also, I think it's another great villain, even though we only see them for one episode. It's because it's like this warlord culture is going around the universe now that the empires fell.
Exactly.
And every week we get kind of a new either good warlord or bad warlord.
Exactly. Everybody wants their piece of the pie. They're not going to be driven by what the Empire wants anymore, and they can sort of like take advantage of this very vulnerable universe, which is, again, one of the coolest aspects of this show. But again, this episode is going to heavily rely on those classic characters like Ahsoka Tano making her big introduction.
Right away, first 5 minutes.
Literally, they waste no time in bringing her in. They're just like, oh man, this is happening, we're seeing it. And Rosario Dawson, I think, did a pretty damn good job as her character. For someone who watched both Clone Wars and Rebels, she not only sounds and looks like her, but she has a lot of the same cadence and just the way she like moves and talks to people. Clearly, she did a little bit of research, and apparently, for the last couple of years, Rosario Dawson has been lobbying to play this character if she ever was put into live action. This is going back as far as 2017, and to finally see it happen, because, you know, the internet goes crazy with this stuff. There's artwork everywhere, and it perfectly encapsulates all that. She really does a great job as the character. She has her twin white lightsabers, which look really awesome in this episode. Worth mentioning, second episode of the entire series to feature traditional lightsabers. Before we saw the darksaber. These are still a little different. It's rare that you see the white kind, especially like dual-wielding ones that are small, but they're distinctive to her. They were a gift from Anakin. You need to stop me or I'm going to keep talking.
No. I understand what you're saying. See, this is what you can do. You can go deep down the rabbit hole and see all this history. For me, I just see a really cool character who I was very concerned about when you said there was going to be in this, because they have this weird sort of headdress to them. And I was like, is that makeup going to look good? Is it going to be like bouncing around? Or is it going to be flopping everywhere? Like, is it going to look real? And I loved what they did with the headband, sort of hid the seam. And overall, I just really thought her character looked really good and wasn't overplayed. And I also think the way that she played that character was not kind of campy. Like, I was scared she was going to just try to play wise Jedi the whole time. But she has a little bit of an emotional range, but she can also jump into the wise Jedi side of things, like her and the Baby Yoda stuff. Speaking of Baby Yoda.
Speaking of Baby Yoda, arguably the biggest thing about this episode is getting to learn the child's name as well as its official backstory. Probably should have put up a big spoiler warning at the beginning of this review.
We're about to spoil.
Yeah, because we're about to spoil some pretty big stuff here. So here we go. So there's this big scene, which just, my God, was driving me crazy, by the way, because it's just Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka Tano with Baby Yoda, and they're just sitting there, just staring at each other. What felt like 2 hours.
Yes.
I was like, ugh, just say something. You could just like feel the tension building. Mando's in the background just sort of pacing, sort of representing us, the viewers. We're like, just give us something, please, anything. And this is where we get to see that they're communicating to each other, like through their thoughts and their feelings with the Force. And this is where we get the official confirmation that Baby Yoda's name is Grogu.
Grogu.
That's it, Grogu. He's Baby Yoda is no longer the thing. Everybody's going to call him Grogu now. It's an interesting name. It's wholly inoffensive, and it's traditionally Star Wars sounding.
It does have a Star Wars feel to it.
It does.
I didn't really think that it was a bad name. I'm not in love with it. I like the child or Baby Yoda way more, even though they don't call him Baby Yoda.
Never.
They do. You do hear them mention that Baby Yoda is like Yoda.
Yeah, that was important. Ahsoka
Yes.
mentions, of course, I've only seen one other member of this species like this before, and it was Jedi Master Yoda. Fuck Yaddle, apparently. That's just the way it is in this episode. I guess Ahsoka never met her at all. That's just the way it's going to go. But we get to learn his official backstory, which doesn't involve cloning or anything weird. He doesn't appear to be the offspring of any previous character. Basically, he was just a young Jedi in training who was on Coruscant.
Padawan.
He was training.
Youngling?
I guess you want to call it, yeah, youngling. That's basically what he was. And when Order 66 happened, apparently someone took him off of Coruscant and they put him into hiding. Freaking 20, nearly 30 years later, this is where he is currently, probably just being in the hands of multiple people during that time. But during this period, he managed to suppress his Force powers so that he doesn't get detected, and that's why he's sort of been under the radar for so long. But clearly, there are people in this universe who know the importance of his character. It makes sense, of course, that the Empire would be after him, knowing that they can harvest those sweet midi-chlorian cells.
Yeah, they it's pretty interesting because I felt like Baby Yoda really was a baby, because the internet calls him Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obvious from this that there's a lot going on inside his head.
Mm-hmm.
He may not be able to communicate yet, but Baby Yoda is 50.
Yeah.
Like he is a 50-year-old being. He's seen a lot of things. He's felt many things. He's seen many things. So I feel like whether or not Baby Yoda was actually saying that, or whether they just sort of mind melded and she sort of extracted those memories, I don't quite understand either, but the Force is mysterious.
I love the fact that they sort of delve in the fact, like you were just saying, that Grogu is a being with thoughts and feelings. He just can't convey them that well.
No.
And by Mandalorian interacting with Ahsoka Tano, he's learned to communicate with him a lot more. You can see when he says his name throughout the episode that Grogu notices this. He's like, hey, we're actually communicating on a way that we've never done before.
You said my name, and he's like, whoa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you can see that there's now an even bigger connection between the characters, and even Ahsoka makes it clear in this episode that Grogu is obsessed with Mando. Like,
Yes.
that's his dad at this point.
Yes.
And that's the way that he sees him, and that training him is going to be very difficult. Again, it's that Star Wars fan service. Even Ahsoka walks up to him and says, I sense much fear in you.
Well,
Like,
I
that
feel
was
like
total class. And you know what's great about that?
Yeah.
Is that a non-Yoda being is saying that to a Yoda being.
Yeah,
That's what Yoda said originally, and it's very interesting. I know what they're doing, but it's cheeky.
I also think Star Wars is very black and white. Sometimes it's unfair. It's like, yeah, the dude's scared.
Yeah.
He's been manhandled by, child traffickers for the last 10 years.
Exactly.
How's he supposed to be calm about that? He's had to survive. So I feel like, and Mando not being a Force user, kind of staying in the gray area of morality this whole series, it's kind of showing that maybe there will be, I don't want to call it the gray Jedi, but Yoda gets the powers, or Baby Yoda, Grogu gets the powers.
It's going to take a while to get used to that, by the way.
But gets to decide what he wants to do on his own. Like he isn't stuck being a good guy, or stuck being in this angel or demon, he may get to choose his own path. And where are they? Well, we didn't talk about the battle yet.
No. So
It's
basically,
kind of battle of the week, though, at this point.
yeah, basically, yeah. But what is cool is I do like the look of this planet, Corvus. It just looks like this ravaged, polluted planet, which is filled with all these dead trees and this weird yellow fog that's just sort of everywhere. It makes a unique place for the battlefield. And then you have this town, which this is where the part of the episode which starts to feel kind of like a classic samurai film.
Yes.
You have these villagers who are being ravaged by these people who've taken over everything.
The Force has been burned down.
Exactly, and they need the lone gunman to come into town to save everybody. In fact, it was sort of a perfect combination of Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven. It was sort of like a great homage to both of those films at once, because this is the part of the episode where it felt like half samurai film, half shootout western.
Yes.
And I think that was intentional on their part, and I think it worked perfectly, especially because we have some really great characters to chew the scenery here. Michael Biehn from freaking Terminator and Aliens. Now the dude's in Star Wars. Triple sci-fi threat. It's great to see his character because he's over the top. He's goofy. He's got a little bit of a, I'm going to call it a space Southern accent.
Yes. He's space Southern.
And I really like it. He's always just a really fun character. The main villainous character in this episode, Morgan Elsbeth, who's played by an actress whose name, frankly, I just don't recognize. I know that she's been in a lot of stuff, mostly as a stunt woman, but here she gets to show off her stuff by having a cool battle with Ahsoka in this beautiful garden, which is like the only nice-looking thing in the entire looking episode.
Feels kind of like Kill Bill.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You can go get the Kill Bill soundtrack and put that shit underneath that fight scene. It'll probably make it 10 times better, which was really cool because you had these two big fights that were going on. You had the samurai-looking fight. You had the Western shootout kind of thing going on with Mando, and everything worked. And again, the foreshadowing in the show is great. The main premise of the episode is that this woman, Morgan, wants to hire Mando to kill Ahsoka Tano. Of course, they end up teaming up together to take them down instead, but she's going to give him a giant spear, which is made out of pure Beskar. Which means, of course, he's going to either have a really cool weapon now, or he's going to melt it and create some brand new armor out of it, or maybe even a brand new
he
weapon.
Can't melt it. He was never a blacksmith.
He'd have to go to the armorer.
Yeah.
He'd have to find her again. But I think that would be really cool. But they, of course, make it clear that, Beskar can repel lightsabers. We even see that when Mando and Ahsoka meet each other for the first time. But then later in the episode, when she brings out the spear, you're like, oh yeah, she's totally going to fight Ahsoka, because we know it can deflect lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, how's this lady going to fight? Because you can't just send droids. She seems strong, So it was an interesting final battle, and I think, like you said, the juxtaposition between the Western and the Eastern styles the same time. It wasn't super heavy implied, but it was lightly implied.
It was subtle. Again, it's that thing that Star Wars always does. They pick and pull from a lot of different genres and mix them together into this sci-fi world. It's dark, it's grungy, but I think
the hero's journey from every perspective at once.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of the best way to put it. But we do have one final stinger for the episode. We get another huge name drop. So while Ahsoka's battling against Morgan, she wants to know where her master is. Now, at first, my first thought is it's probably going to be Moff Gideon. They seem to be wanting to build him up a little bit more. It's actually Grand Admiral Thrawn. So for hardcore Star Wars fans, people who read the books Heir to the Empire or watch Star Wars Rebels, you know that this is an incredibly important character who, when he was last seen, was with another major character, and it involved Ahsoka and Sabine Wren, another Mandalorian, by the way, who are searching for someone. Ezra Bridger, to be perfectly honest. Again, this means nothing to you if you don't watch these shows.
I Googled him. He's a blue guy.
Yeah, but this episode was directed by Dave Filoni, which makes sense because he worked on both of these shows. These are his babies. He's going to make an episode about them. And I don't know how it's going to play into the grand scheme of The Mandalorian, or if this episode is quite literally just a test bed for another live-action Star Wars spinoff, which, to be honest...
And it follows that chick around?
Yes.
Yeah. I told you
How
I
are
wasn't...
they not going to make a Rosario Dawson Ahsoka show after this?
I was excited about that, but at the same time, I've told you that I don't like making spinoffs with main characters because you get too much power concentrated in one thing. Like, they can be at the head of a Starfleet, or they could be at the head of a rebel fleet. Like, Mando will never do that. He's just a dude with a ship on an adventure. And I like it that small and concentrated, like surface level Star Wars. Like, once we're going to control the galaxy seems to be going on whether or not you're in control or not. Mando was about to give away Grogu. He was about to just give him away to the Jedi, which I still can't believe was actually going to happen. And then Rosario Dawson was like, no, I'm actually not going to train him. Take him to that place where Jedis go to. That's the place where they get the crystals for the swords?
I'm not sure. She said take him to the planet Tython, I think is what she called it.
Is that where he has to make a sacrifice to get the Soul Stone?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And he's going to take him to the top of the mountain. Supposedly it'll draw in some other Jedi, which could potentially mean more cameos. Is Mark Hamill going to show up or some crazy shit?
Obi-Wan.
I don't know. Obi-Wan could show up. What if Ewan McGregor just shows up in The Mandalorian? How crazy would that be?
Yeah, and he says some British shit.
Yeah.
Just talking.
Personally, I don't think he's... Personally, I don't think he's leaving Tatooine anytime soon. But it's interesting to see where else they're going to go with this. We only got 3 more episodes for the season.
Also, Mando is learning about the Force.
Little by little.
Yeah, and I feel like that's important. And also when the Jedi told him, like, try to connect with him, like, stare at him, like, you'll get something from that.
Yeah.
I don't think that was parenting advice. I think that was Force advice.
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting where this is going. How many episodes are left? I don't even know.
3.
3 more?
Just of the season.
I thought this episode could have been season finale.
It felt like that. It felt like this.
Well, the Moff Gideon's going to have to come to a close.
They're going to probably bring that in for the next couple of episodes, which they need to, because I think that's some really important stuff, too. Again, though, it's clashing with all this big stuff that they're dropping in at the very end, like Grand Admiral Thrawn, everything with Ahsoka Tano. Like, it's very clear that this episode was made just as much for Clone Wars and Rebels fans as it was for Mandalorian.
That's right.
Again, I agree, though. If they continue the series into 3rd and 4th and 5th seasons, which they almost certainly will.
Of course. Yeah, I would.
I do want them to go back to more of the focus on Mandalorian and Grogu. Just focus on those characters and the adventures that they go on, and leave all of that other grander stuff in the deepest parts of the lore of the Star Wars universe in the background, completely in the background. We're talking no dialogue. Because I do love that about Mandalorian. The show's appeal and the ability to, get non-Star Wars fans to enjoy it.
Surface level.
Is a big deal.
Yeah.
And this show has always been sort of like made that way since the first season. But this season is really starting to pull in all those elements that were sort of like hanging from those previous shows. And it can hurt it for better or for worse. For me, I like it. But for the casual viewer, it might not mean that much. But overall, this was a monumental episode of The Mandalorian. Easily the most important episode of the entire series.
Yeah, most important, moved the overall story ahead the most.
Yes.
Like, it's not just an adventure on a sand world. You know, they didn't just kill a big sandworm. It was much more than that. This is the episode people will be talking about. This is answering top 10 things that answered in the last episode of Mandalorian. Like, they're going to make a lot of lists from this episode.
This is what we've been wanting to hear since episode 1.
Yeah.
Ever since that first big reveal that the entire show of Mandalorian was not going to be about just a dude going around shooting people in the face, but taking care of a little baby who looks like everybody's favorite Green Jedi Master.
That's right.
It is a big deal. So I loved this episode, of course. It's 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 too. I just have to agree. It was an epic episode, really good one. It is a episode that you'll love if you're a Star Wars fan, and if you've been following the series, it's an awesome build-up.
You heard our thoughts, guys. We want to hear yours. Make sure to sound off in the comments section below telling us what you thought about the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 13, The Jedi, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, Baby Yoda's real name, and Grand Admiral Thrawn. What do you want to see from the rest of the season? Do you want to go on more of those crazier Star Wars adventures or some more grounded-level Mandalorian storylines? So sound off. Let's hear all your thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this review. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. I also want to go ahead and take this time to thank my patrons. You guys are amazing, making donations every single month to the channel. Can't thank you enough for that. Make sure to donate to the channel. Remember, first-time donators, I'll review an anime series of your choice, as well as adding your name to the list that you see on screen right here. You guys are the producers of Ace Guru. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. We'll see you all next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.